Hey card making friends, it's Sandy here. Welcome back to my channel. I have a non-traditional colored Valentine's card to share with you today. I recently did a little retail therapy over at Simon Says Stamps and I grabbed a couple of things. Papertrey inks, Larger Than Life Love. I love the heart for the O in that sentiment. And also from Papertrey, Love to Layer Hearts. They have pretty layering and scalloped edges. They're just beautiful. Next up, we have the Simon Says Stamps, dropped it, Elegant Blossoms Branch, and I'm using that to decorate down the side of my card. Next, Simon Says Stamps Falling Hearts Embossing Folder, and I've used this embossing folder in another video, which I will link to in the comments below. Finally, we have some pre-printed Reverse All the Love Sentiments, also from Simon Says Stamps. I've die cut in some non-traditional colors, and I'm using Pawsitively saturated inks from Simon in Butter, Rhubarb, Artichoke, and my favorite Waffle Flower Zero Shader brushes. Starting off, my card base is 4 1/4 by 11, and it's white cardstock folded in half, and I've used a peach colored card front 4 1/4 by 5.5 to attach to the front after I embossed it. Next up, we have 3 die cuts of the Sentiment Love, and I'm going to use my Barely Art glue, and I'm going to stack these together so they're nice and thick and substantial when I go to put them onto my card. The reverse twist are really handy for holding on to these little pieces while you're adding glue to them and eliminate getting glue all over your fingers that you eventually transfer to the front of your pretty die cut, right? Okay, so once we finish up this little guy, I am going to set it aside to dry, and in the meantime I have cut out 2 of the largest of the pretty hearts, and these are the larger Love to Layer hearts, again from Papertrey ink, and I'm using the point of my tweezers to pop out the little holes in the scalloped edges on both of them. And then once again, I'm going to use my Barely Art glue, and I'm going to glue these together. Again, providing more weight to the heart so that it's nice and strong when we stick it down to our card base. And I'm going to be adding some foam tape to the back of this just to add a little bit of dimension to my card as well. Next up, I've got my die cutting with the Elegant Blossoms branch, and I did this twice in green and then once in the yellows, the light and the dark, and then once each in the light and the dark kind of peachy color. And these are different cardstocks from my stash, and I'll list them over on the blog just so you know which ones I used. They coordinate also with the Butter, Rhubarb, and Artichoke inks from Simon Says Stamps, and I'm showing you my favorite little blending brushes. Again, the Waffle Flower Shader brush in the 0. It's the smallest one, and it is absolutely great for adding ink to little die pieces. So starting at the bottom of the leaves, I'm adding the Artichoke ink and pulling it up a little bit. I'm also adding some to the stem, and this adds shadows and highlights without having to add a whole bunch of extra dimension and weight to the card. And I'm adding that to all the little green pieces that I'm putting onto some of the flowers as well. Here we go, I'll zoom in so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so then I'm switching out to I decided on Butter. I'm going to go with Butter. And I'm using this color on all of the light and the dark yellow. And both of these yellows are from Spellbinders, Chamomile, and Beeswax. I'll try and remember as we go through the video and tell you which ones they are. And you want to just kind of do the center of the flower, so where the shadow may be, where the darkest, where there's petals overlapping. And this just really adds life to your die cuts without adding a whole bunch of extra work. It is really worth the extra step, and you want to do this before you glue these together. It's really hard to do it afterwards. Okay, so I'm flipping out now to the Rhubarb, and we're going to do the pink flowers, or the peachy colored flowers. And again, I'm using this color for both. Now, the pinks or the peaches are Basil cardstock and Roselle and Pizzazz. So the first one, the number is 305040. The second one, the number is 372592. And again, I will list these over on my blog, just in case you want to case this card. And you can get most of the Basil colors at scrapbook.com. and I have a local store that carries it, so I like to buy it there to shop local and also to save money on shipping. Paper's expensive to ship. Okay, so next up we have to glue all these little guys together, and I use the diagram on the front of the envelope to direct me on how to do that. And some handy tools for this stage is the Place and Score embellishment wand. This one is from Simon Says Stamps, my tweezers, and my Barely Art glue with the fine tip. And so I'm basically, for the bigger flowers, just adding a little dab of glue to the center of one of the pieces and then grabbing the second one and doing the overlay, and then another little dot of glue, and we're going to add the center circle. And the die only cuts one center circle out, and so I'm using the yellow one on the peach colored flowers, and I'm using the green one on the yellow colored flowers, just so I don't have to go and cut a whole pile more out. And then for that bottom piece on the smaller flower, I am adding that in green. I thought that was a really nice contrast. And when I was kind of fiddling around additioning all the pieces, the card did need a little bit more green at the top, and that's an easy way to add that without having to cut out a whole bunch of more leaves. Okay, so I have 2 of the large flowers and 2 of the small flowers, and of each color. I end up only using 1 of each on the front of the card, so there's a total of 4, which I know in the world of designing is not the right odd number, but I consider the large sentiment love die cut the 5th element. So there are actually 5 elements on the front of my card, which I like. It's, even though it's an odd number, it's a nice balance. Okay, so we're just moving in, and now we're going to grab this last little bit here. This is the last of the yellow flower. We have all our pieces made, and now it's time to put the card together. We have our embossed piece down on our card base, obviously, and I have a bunch of foam tape on the back of my heart, which I'm just removing the protective layer, and that's going to be my base. I'm going to pop it down on an angle on the front of the card, trying to center it as much as possible. Then the next piece that goes down is the stem with the leaves, and that goes down the right hand side. And again, some Barely Art glue all over. There's going to be some overhangs, and I'm just not going to worry about them. They're pretty close to being flush with the card. Then I'm going to position where I want my flowers to go, because my sentiment is going to overlay over top of them. So right now I'm dry fitting and auditioning where I want all the pieces to go. Now that I'm happy with the layout, I am going to use the Simon Says Stamps foam squares on the back of the flowers and attach them to the card. So I like putting a little bit of foam behind, and these ones aren't real thick, so it shouldn't add enough bulk that you need to add extra postage to your cards, hopefully, because postage is getting kind of expensive. Okay, and I'm just tucking these underneath each other, so it's just kind of cascading up the top and off the card. Okay, we're getting close to the end. I'm adding some glue to my 3-layered sentiment, and that is going to get glued down to the left-hand side, overlapping the part of the flowers and kind of hanging off of the Valentine, the white heart in the background, just a hair. And I'm going to take this reverse all the love, and I have cut out one of these sentiments. Unfortunately, my camera's not going to zoom in on it for you. It says, "I love you, friend." I'm adding little half pieces of the foam squares onto the back of it, and I'm going to stick it, I think eventually, I decide, the bottom left-hand corner. I was thinking about going over top of the heart in the word love, but I decided it was maybe a little bit too busy up there. I needed a little bit more of an anchor in the design in the bottom left-hand corner, so with the dark, that was a good place to put it. And I'm really happy with that. And the final step is some bling. This is the Clearly Positively Dazzling Gems from Simon. There's lots of different sizes in the bottle. And again, I'm using my Place and Score embellishment wand to pick them up and kind of pop them onto my card where I think I would want them. And again, I like to use odd numbers, and I end up with 3 up near the top and 2 down near the bottom. And I have them kind of nicely dispersed, but they're all on kind of the right-hand side of the card. I'm leaving the left side quite naked so that the sentiment really stands out. Okay, and again, the fine tip on my Barely Art Glue is great for adding these to my card. I hope you enjoyed today's card share. Everything that I have used today is linked underneath this video. There's also a link over to my blog where you can get the further details on the cardstock and the cutting instructions, etc. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider giving me a thumbs up, sharing it with your friends, and leaving me a kind comment. I would really appreciate it, as it really helps my YouTube channel. And thanks so much for stopping in and watching. And here's another video I thought you might like. Until next time, toodles!